So, in Vietnam, like I said, I do want to talk a bit more about the culture and cultural differences and stuff like that, because, like I said, I feel it's going to get eroded in the next 20, 30, 40 years. We're not going to see, what we can see now. Like even note the really massive differences between the latest 2 or 3 generations. Like you see the young kids here. They don't have any I don't know. They don't seem to have any allegiance to the memories of their forefathers. One pertinent example is most of the people here aren't even aware of the Vietnam War. The younger generation, it's not even like a blip on their radar. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of sacrilegious because, during the war, there were so many people that gave their lives, died for an ideology which they believed in, and to have that kind of absolutely thrown away by the new generation, it's sad. It's criminal. I mean, one example is, it wasn't that long ago. It was basically the generation before that were in droves, tortured by Americans and American soldiers. And you have a generation right now that proudly plasters the American flag on their faces and bodies. It's like some dude and murdered your grandfather and grandmother, and then you promote his face on your t-shirt. In the West, Vietnam is seen as the victor in the Vietnam War, Vietnam-American War, but I think it's it's like pretty much a definition of Pyrrhic victory. I'm not aware of any other skirmish where one party loses 14 to 15 times the amount of lives as the other party and is declared the victor. And another thing about the Vietnam War is it left a really deep scar on the psyche of the Vietnamese people, because the war was one thing, but the economic sanctions that America handed down, imposed on the Vietnamese people, that was what destroyed a lot of their resistance. So a lot of these older generation, they went through the privations that happened after the war, when America imposed the market sanctions, the trade embargoes that didn't allow Vietnam to trade with the rest of the world. And I mean, you do that to any nation on the face of the earth, and that nation is going to suffer, because just say you can grow a whole bunch of rice or bamboo, but you don't have the ability to trade that with the rest of the world, your country is probably not going to prosper. So geez, man, there's been a lot of people that told me tales of how life was right after the war. People didn't have a shirt to wear, literally. It was horrific, people were starving, literally starving. So, I mean, that is one of the reasons that the nation right now is so America and pro-West because they've seen this, they've gone through that crazy period where they didn't have enough to eat. They didn't have shirts to wear. They were like in abject poverty. And then they saw how opening up the gates to foreign investment and foreigners translated into better living conditions for the local population. So in the minds of the Vietnamese people, they really, that's the kind of a weird paradox, is they give responsibility for the country's emerging, improvement in material wealth to foreigners, but they don't hold any Americans to blame. Like, I don't know if you watched that road trip video by Jeremy Clarkson, but he had this American flag on his bike, and it was meant to be kind of like goading the local population because of the war. But anyone that's been to Vietnam will know that Vietnam, and it's quite unbelievable to say this, but Vietnam is one of the most pro-American countries in the world. There's so many people here that wear the American flag, like I said, on their t-shirts, on their helmets, on their, it's just really pro-American, very, very pro-American. Some people may argue that's really dishonoring the memory of the fallen soldiers and the, all the civilians and women and even children that died to throw off the shackles of US imperialism. I just don't understand how, after the history that's gone on here, that I don't understand how they can be so pro-American. But even not just pro-American, like Vietnamese are really, really pro-foreigner. Like, a lot of Vietnamese that come back to visit here, like they've, I don't know, they've shown some disappointment at the double standard in treatment that you get if you're, if you look Vietnamese versus if you have a white face. So, I mean, my viewpoint is this, right? I don't blame the people because look at all the people here, they've never had really any real substantial interaction with foreigners. So the only thing they know about the outside world is through the lens of media. And you look at what America shows to the rest of the world, like Brad Pitt and just all the glamour of Hollywood. That's what people associate with America here. So it's no wonder that people here are so enamored with everything American, because they don't know what America is, you know what I mean? They know of a America that is filtered through the lens of Hollywood, and that is not America. That is Hollywood's portrayal of America. So when people here say things like they want to go to America or they love America, blah, 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 it's really, they're speaking about it from a very ignorant viewpoint, and that of the, very non-critical viewer of, American produced media. But anyways, guys, I mean, it's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit serious for a random walking around vlog. I mean, I haven't really touched on too much of the really good points about the culture and traditions and society here, because I think that this really excessive worship of foreign culture and foreigners, it's just something that can't be overlooked, and it's like a tumor in the body of the culture here. I think, if you have that in your national psyche, and I know I know Germany also has a similar condition. If you have that in your national psyche, you're pretty much doomed, and not pretty much, you're 100% doomed, because there's no overcoming that. You know, if you view every other nation as superior, every other culture or ethnicity as superior to yours, then it is only a matter of time, my friend, before you self-destruct as a culture. And it's very, very sad. I mean, it's almost like the seeds of damn, that was smoky. You know, it's really ironic. It's really ironic that the seeds that are responsible for the progress and advancement of a nation are also the same exact seeds that will result in that nation or people self-destructing. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the ability of the Vietnamese people to, you know, not be parochial, to, I don't know where I am. Yeah, to not be parochial and to absorb, you know, outside influences in a bid to further their own civilization. That same mindset is what is going to, you know, destroy them in the end. Because, you know, the really primitive cultures that don't allow that, they don't want any external influence, you know, they hate foreigners, they hate outsiders, they remain primitive, you know, they don't advance as quickly as the more xenophilic cultures, but they also don't get corrupted, you know, they don't allow their women to marry out. Like, I'm speaking about like Muslim cultures, they don't, you know, they are definitely not pro-outsider. They have a really strong in-group preference. And like I said, that means that they're more savage, they're more like primitive, barbaric, but it also means that they protect themselves from being, you know, from external corruption. Anyways, guys, that's about it. That's all I got to say for this video. I'm lost, I think, so I got to consult Mr. Google Maps and see where the hell we are.